by Karima Brown, political analyst and host of The Fix on eNCA. Good evening, Karima. We're making a habit of this. It felt like the ultimate drop mic moment when that letter landed this afternoon. It did cross my mind that maybe it was always going to come to this. If you think back to how fractured it was at Nasrec in 2017, is this the moment that had to arrive? And is this the moment?
Absolutely, Sally. I think you've framed it really nicely. This is, the ultimate showdown. The big boys of politics have stepped out of the shadows and stopped the shadow boxing and put on the gloves and got into the ring. President Jacob Zuma has thrown down the gauntlet on behalf of all those associated with the state capture project that have, been aligned to him in the run-up to Nasrec and post that narrow defeat by his candidate, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. I also think, Sally, that the fake unity that everyone in the African National Congress was talking about is now finally, rent asunder. There is no more denying that this is an organization at war with itself. And of course, there are different ideas of what an ANC in the future is going to look like, feel like, sound like, and what its relationship is going to be with the South African public and with the constitution of the country, Sally.
Sure, those are strong words, Karima. Fake unity, a party at war with itself. That sounds to me like a party that is on the brink of splitting. Do you think that could really happen?
It depends, Sally, on the extent to which the opposing political agendas of the factions, come to blows in the party. So my understanding is that one of the, reasons for the machinations that you see from your Tony Ngenis to your Ace Magashules is an attempt to embroil Cyril Ramaphosa himself in front of the Integrity Committee around the way in which he raised campaign funds. Now, you will look at the letter of Jacob Zuma. It's written to script. The letter was most certainly caucused, and, there are key touch points. I have it on good authority that Cyril Ramaphosa is going to make himself available to go to the Integrity Committee to explain the CR17 funds. And that, of course, is going to throw down the gauntlet to Ace Magashule, who is on record saying that he won't actually step aside and that he, is not prepared to take a bullet whilst he is being investigated by his own internal structures. So it's going to depend, Sally, the extent to which these two groups can find an accommodation with each other. Now, here's the thing. If you look at that letter of Jacob Zuma, it's in direct conflict, Sally, with what the president told the National Assembly yesterday. President Zuma says Cyril Ramaphosa has thrown the party under the bus. Cyril Ramaphosa told the National Assembly yesterday that his oath of allegiance is to the country and to the Constitution of South Africa and not to his party. So those are fairly principled, divergent points on which these two factions base their understanding of themselves in relation to the African National Congress. And I don't see how you can find an accommodation in the same party with people who are so fundamentally opposed to how they look at the role of the former liberation movement, the now governing party, vis-a-vis the Constitution and the public of South Africa in terms of accountability, Sally.
I was reading an interesting article written by Richard Calland in the Mail and Guardian. In fact, we're speaking to Richard after 7 o'clock, and he says it's going to come down. The party will have to choose between Cyril or Ace Magashule. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, I think so. I think that what you have here is two factions staking their claim to what they believe the ANC ought to be about. So if you look at the host of people that are, pulling up their shirt sleeves behind the banner of Ace Magashule. It's a group of people that have been no strangers to controversy. Tony Ngeni have been to prison. Andile Lungisa, the same in terms of his behavior in the municipality. Quite a few people who have been involved in graft. Some have gone to prison, some have had suspended sentences. And their loyalties is to the ANC, everything else comes second. If you look at who's rallied behind Cyril Ramaphosa. It is people who have, for the lack of a better word, defined themselves as constitutionalists, if you like, adhering to the rule of law. That came down on very key issues when, for example, the Speaker of the National Assembly, then Baleka Mbete, had to decide whether MPs could vote in secret or not on the motion of no confidence against the then President Jacob Zuma. So very much the two groups defining themselves in relation to the Constitution, in relation to the rule of law, and also in relation to the core loyalties, whether it is party über alles or whether it is Constitution über alles. And I think that is pretty much the divisions along which these factions, manifest in the organization.
It was interesting, we were making the point earlier that he feels that the pro-Zuma, pro-ACE faction has actually been weakened, and you can tell that by what they did with Zandile Gumede. The other side of that is that President Ramaphosa took way too long to act against party members who actually were seeking to undermine him. Where do you stand on that one?
Well, remember our conversation last night, Sally, where I said to you that the president had missed an opportunity around Zandile Gumede. And had blurred the party lines. But if you look at the speed with which the province, who had essentially deployed Zandile Gumede less than a week ago, overturned that decision, then you can see the strength of the Ramaphosa position. And as I said to you last night, Cyril Ramaphosa has a couple of things in his toolbox, Sally. He's got that conference resolution. And when you look at the press conference today of the KwaZulu-Natal ANC leadership, it's that resolution that they use to justify their turnaround, even though a lot of them are supporters of Zandile Gumede. So the president does have, a couple of instruments through which he is able to wield authority. And I think if he tells the NEC that he's happy to go to the Integrity Committee to talk about the CR17 campaign funds, it's going to be pretty hard for anyone else in the organization to try and fend off an inquiry by the Integrity Committee. The difference, of course, there, Sally, is that some of the people facing the Integrity Committee on the opposite side of Cyril Ramaphosa are also being investigated by law enforcement agencies. And therein, of course, lies the rub. Someone like Zandile Gumede isn't just in trouble with the ANC, she is in trouble with the law for criminal offences which she is accused of. And quite a few people potentially could end up there. People like Mosibenze Zwane, people like Bongani Bongo, and a whole host of other very senior National Executive Committee members. So they don't just face sanction in the party, they also face the long arm of the rule of law. They have to potentially go to court to explain the charges that is in all likelihood going to be proffered against them in the next month or so.
Karima Brown, thank you so much.